And just like that, Stadia goes back from zero to semi-hero again in a matter of a week. And all of this happened because the media just couldn't do their due diligence and figure out what was going on with the SG&E closure. And man, we got some funny and peculiar examples that we want to go over with you. So check it out. See as wow, Stadia hate from media exposed, major backtrack follows. Man, oh man, let's get into this one. SDO Daily. Let's start it, baby.
Stay sick cause I follow my gut. They say I was pushing my luck. I'ma push me a matte all black truck. I'm not sorry.
What's up, people? What's up, people? What's up, people? It is your boy MM2K back again with another episode of the SDO Daily. Do me a huge favor before we get into this one. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, rock those bells for notifications, please, so you know when we are dropping these doses. We appreciate all of y'all. Straight up, you know the deal, you know the reason, you know the slogan. We are not too proud to ask. Let's get into it. All right. The best thing come to those who wait. It's not just a catch-up slogan. It's a cautionary tale that has to be reminded time and time again to the puke pundits, the lamestream media, who just jump all over an opportunity to get clicks without waiting for context. What am I talking about? Well, if you haven't lived under a rock, or if you're not living under a rock, then you would know that a few weeks ago, Stadia, on the heels of all of the acclaim it was starting to get for Cyberpunk 2077 working so well, and people finally, a year after the fact, understanding the versatility that the platform could pose and the potential that it has, they said, well, you know what? We agree. So here's what we're going to do. To make situations like Cyberpunk 2077 happen more frequently and more directly affect the now, we're going to close down our first-party studios. We're going to close down our first-party studios. We're going to tell you in a matter-of-fact way why it's a smart move. You'll understand it, and then we'll move on, right? And things didn't happen that way. And I get it for the unknowledgeable gamer part of it, because the letter and the explanation that Stadia give, I got it. Most of you that are listening got it, but a lot of the mainstream gaming community when they saw this news, they didn't understand if SG&E, if that meant all of Stadia or the main efforts or whatever. And the way that the media made it sound, it was the heart and soul of Stadia platform right now. And Stadia didn't do themselves any favor by letting Kotaku run with this story first. Kotaku reported it like it was an obituary, like it was a eulogy. That's how they reported the news. So they cut off their nose to spite their face. They shot themselves in the foot with that. And finally, after a week of saying, you know what, well, it's just misinterpreted, people don't understand it, and us urging them otherwise, and them putting out great news like Crata, the game creation game, is going to be free to play. So even if you don't want Stadia Pro, you can see all of the created content out there for Stadia. A lot of it is acclaimed. People love it. People have won prizes. Our own Project Storm of the Stadia Dosage platform won a cash prize for a game that he developed through Crata. Yes. So you guys and gals just are getting the tip of the iceberg of what this platform can provide. And that's what Stadia was hoping to market and to broadcast to everybody. Then Little Nightmares 2 of the critically acclaimed series, Little Nightmares, of course, that was dropping day before day at no additional cost to Stadia Pro members. But that couldn't get any buzz. Why? Because the cloud of the misinformation that the lamestream media was putting out there just sucked the oxygen out of the room, anything in relation to Stadia. I mean, the obituary read, this was it. This is the end of Stadia, right? So you couldn't talk about it because it was supposed to be a wind down. So finally, Stadia said, you know what? Now we get it. We understand that our message has to be more succinct with the mainstream gamer. It's not even though there was enough information out there in the way that we put it out there originally, it's not indicative of the listener to have the comprehension level that we have. It's indicative of us, the communicators, to communicate it in a way that they can digest, because they're the people that we need to come to us. They don't need us to come to them. Stadia seems to have finally got that, and they put out another presser that gave them any roadmap, which some people were asking for, and also talked more confidently about long-term stability of the product, at least for 2021. And I know a lot of people say, well, that doesn't go into 2022, and that's fine, because nobody else is talking about 2022 either. The only people that were talking about 2022 was Stadia. And maybe they did it a little too soon that fit their PR narrative. And maybe they're scaling it back a little bit. We will see, time will tell. But at least for 2021, we know that there's gonna be fathomable activity for its user base, right? And if they're successful with this stint, then we're gonna hear more about 2022, right? Definitely. Okay, so with all that said, with all that now coming to fruition, the mainstream media that was reading the obituary with Kotaku, now they got some explaining to do, right? So let me show you just some of the backtrack and focus primarily on one that, even at its best, because of the entity's ignorance to what Stadia is trying to do and the fact that they engraved themselves so much on the hate train speech of Stadia's dead when the SG&E news finally originally dropped, that we want to show you how you don't pivot, and then we're going to show you how you do pivot if you were participating in loitering the truth a few weeks ago with the SG&E news. But you know how we do. Let me show you something. It's my homie Snoop. We got a Snoop gif on the screen right here. Why? Because I put up here in response to an article dropped by GameSpot. I put up here, what was that I heard from the idiot herd? Stadia's dead where? And we got my homie Snoop like, okay, I want to hear this. Come on, explain this one to me. And GameSpot says, after shutting down its own game development studios, Google makes it clear that Stadia will have lots and lots of games in 2021. Oh my. That's completely different from, again, the eulogy that we were hearing from the entities like GameSpot, Kotaku, whoever the hell, right? And you're seeing a lot of this now. I saw one particularly from Eurogamer that tickled me fancy. It'll trigger you to rip it in half in such a comical way. I'm not going to put it up on the screen because what they were saying last week was like they really dug their heels into this mess of misinformation and not really having the facts on their side. And now they're trying to backtrack with a little bit of misinformation to kind of explain why they dug their heels into the Stadia hate train rhetoric that had predominated the mainstream media last week. And it doesn't work. But go check it out when you get a chance to give yourself a good chuckle. Some critical things that they got wrong there. With that being said, I was also disappointed to see some regular followers of Google as a business, as an enterprise, also dig their heels into the Stadia hate train. Some of which were even saying, you know what? Yeah, it's imminent. This is what this thing means, is closing down. When the evidence doesn't stack with that mantra. Now again, I'm not saying that any of us are 100% right or wrong. We don't know. We're not in the boardroom. But what I will say to those entities is that even just because you follow and you analyze trends after the fact with certain things, number one, Google getting into Stadia is something different from what they've ever done before. So I don't think there's any precedent for you to follow. Secondly, just because you follow precedent doesn't put you in the boardroom. As someone from the Fortune 500 world, there are things that, yes, people that follow our company and our trends, they try to make some educated guesses. But when we do certain things, especially when they're new, they have no idea what the hell we're doing because they're not in the boardroom. Our own employees didn't know what we were doing and what we were discussing behind closed doors. So just because you sit behind a computer with a nice cup of Java doesn't give you carte blanche connection to what we're saying in the boardroom. It's great that you can follow patterns, but some patterns you can't follow until the precedent has been set. And this is the first time that Google tried to hop into something like gaming and create massive studios when Xbox or PlayStation never tried to do that in their beginnings, right? So there's not a precedent I don't think you can really follow. But I can't say with 100% certainty that you're wrong or right. All I can say is that the multitude of evidence may not support their opinions. And I was a little disappointed for them, knowing that, for them to stick their heels so much in absolutist talk. I'm not sticking my heels in absolutist talk. I believe, in my opinion, that this is a reboot. We got some reassurances for 2021. I feel comfortable about 2022, but I'm not in the boardroom. I can't 100% confirm anything. However, with all that said, back to the backtrack. As my homie Snoop is sitting there like, come on, what you got for me to explain your pivot? I want to show you now how one entity is pivoting, and they're trying their best to do it in a very sly, subconscious manner, but it doesn't work. And shout out to a content creator who called it out. And then I want to show you another entity that just simply does what they need to do, even though they may have some footprints there that you can witness during the loitering. You can catch them on camera too during the misinformation loitering or the Stadia is dead loitering session, that they pivot the right way. So first, the wrong way. Let me show you something. This is from VGC. VGC, VideoGamesChronicle.com, says Stadia insists it will release over 100 games in 2021 despite studio closures. Now, I'm not going to get into the article because the article isn't the worst, but the devil's in the details. We know that 90% of the perception is going to come from where? The title. And what this does is this subconsciously create a theme that Stadia reasonably has to insist that, oh, we're still going to make games even though we closed our studios. What that does is that makes a correlation between two things that have nothing to do with each other, as a content creator had pointed out. The content creator said, hold on, look. Maybe it's because they shouldn't have to, really, I'm paraphrasing here, they shouldn't have to insist because the closure of the first party studios has nothing to do with what was happening in 2021, because Jade Raymond, the head of the first party studios, told you we're not going to be able to produce our Breath of the Wild or anything massive at that level, first party wise, until 4 or 5 years from when she made that comment, which was 2019. So 5 years from 2019, which would have been 2024, is when you would see the first fruits of that effort. That has nothing to do with the planning and the organization that had to be for bringing games over to the platform, porting them over, or getting them built from the ground up from their third-party relationships in 2021. Nothing to do with it at all. But what this does is this makes a false correlation, and it got called out. And kudos to that content creator for calling it out. I know they don't like to get in the muck of the stuff that the MM2K, we gonna show you today train likes to put out there. But kudos to them for pointing that out. This story is insisting on something that is not a reasonable correlation, right? However, let me show you another entity that, again, you can catch them on camera in the Stadia is dead loiter train or loiter shops, but they pivot the right way. Simply with this. Let me show you something else. Tech Radar, shout out to them. Their title is simply, Google promises more than 100 games are coming to Stadia this year. And don't worry about Stadia just yet. They do make some connection to the rhetoric that was happening before, but they don't put it in their title. There is no, they gotta insist this and that. And if you read the article, again, they talk about the fervor that was going on last week with SG&E, but they don't try to subconsciously make this correlation of the rhetoric we were talking about last week. Oh yeah, even though it looks like we may have been dead wrong on it. But here's why we were jumping out the window on it without looking at everything in context. We were trying to get clicks without context. No, Tech Radar just says, you know what? Let's continue on. Let's move on. Here's the fact of the matter. Here's the true meat and potatoes. Nothing more, nothing less. Google just simply promises more than 100 games are coming to Stadia this year. So if you were worried about the stuff we were talking about last week, don't worry about it, because we won't worry about Stadia just yet. So, with all that said, it's just interesting the song and dance that the mainstream media continues to try to put up in the sake of their misinformation and, again, their campaigns to get clicks without context. They fail every time. When all they got to do is just take a few moments to study Stadia, maybe talk to the community, talk to those that are apprehensive about some things, talk to those that are optimistic, get a better understanding of what's going on so you don't have embarrassing moments like this. I'm in a DM where people were regurgitating that rhetoric from last week, and when I dropped these articles on them, they just shut the hell up. Why? Because once again, I know what they're thinking in the back of their head. What? But y'all said last week this, and y'all got me running around out here regurgitating this mess, and it ain't even factual. So again, don't keep playing Groundhog's Day or 51st dates with the mainstream media. They don't like cloud gaming. It threatens their dedicated device gaming stint in their mind, which is a foolish thought to have, but to them it threatens dedicated device gaming, and anytime they can knock it off its pedestal, they will do that. Yes, they will say good things about GFN in contrast with Stadia, but if they're successful in knocking Stadia off its stool, then next they'll go after GFN, and so forth and so forth. That's why they blindly praise GFN and Amazon. They've never touched the platforms before in their life, for the most part. So again, understand what you're dealing with these entities. They are not to be trusted with cloud gaming news. Go to the cloud gaming sources. And if you're concerned that you're going to get too much bias with the cloud gaming source, simply just look at that source and say, hey, are they giving you pros and cons consistently? And I am proud to say that here on Stadia Dosage, we are doing that. Even though we felt like that Stadia was doing a reshuffling of its allocation of resources with the closure of SG&E, we hammered them on their messaging of that, rightfully so. And it appears that the right thing for them to do is what we were saying that they should do, which was, again, come up with a clearer message for the gaming community. And look what it's causing. So yeah, entities out there that do give you pros and cons that are just extremely negative or extremely positive all the time, those are the sources you want to stick to. You cannot rely on the mainstream media. Again, why? Simply because, again, they are out for clicks without context, period. That's it from your boy Mem2K. Let me know what you think about all this in the comment section below, because like I always say, I'm curious what I think. But if you did like it, check out the links below to follow me. Those links will lead you to the Broadband Bullies, PNTS Network, Hard Knock Digital Culture, and yes, the Stadia Dosage. With that said, have a wonderful gaming day.